Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. What if every cast is a song? Think about that for a minute. Now, I know it's late at night and I'm out in the shop and sometimes silly things come up, but I don't think this is too silly. Think about a fishing cast, no matter what kind of fishing it is, whether it's rock fishing on the Chesapeake Bay or bass fishing on the TVA lakes or somewhere on the Great Lakes or, whatever kind of fishing you enjoy doing. What if you think about that cast as a song? So as a song, a song is just a collection of amplitudes and frequencies. And it has a beginning and an end. And those amplitudes and frequencies have a predictability to them. We recognize what's going to happen usually, and I listen to all kinds of music. I'm a big rock and roll fan. I love classic country. I listen to a lot of Americana music, and I also like jam bands. And I do a lot of listening. I'm especially doing a lot of listening to jam bands lately. And one of the reasons I like jam bands is because of that predictability. There's a repetitiveness to jam band music, whether if it's Grateful Dead or Leftover Salmon or any of the Fish, any of the fantastic jam bands. That there is a repetitiveness. Now, it might be a repetitive chord pattern, or it might be a repetitive riff on the guitar that you hear over and over throughout the song, or something that is in that song that offers you an element of predictability. Now, if every song just repeated the same notes over and over again, that wouldn't be very satisfying, and we probably wouldn't like it too much because it'd be boring. But it's the little subtle differences. The next time through, the guitar takes a lead. The next time through, you get a drum solo. The next time through, you got a bass break. All of those things kind of go together to make it interesting. Same way with a fishing cast. So you make your cast, you expect the lure to hit the water, and it does. You expect it to drop down, and you drop it down as deep as you want it to get to. And then you start retrieving. And as you snap your rod back, whatever kind of fishing you're doing, say it's a Ned rig and you're bass fishing, or a plastic worm, and you're moving it across the bottom, you're expecting something to happen. You're expecting to feel the lure hit the bottom or hit something. And in order to do that, you have to tune in. So you probably heard me say before that my dad taught me how to fish by saying, think down the line. And by think down the line, he meant that you have to imagine inside your brain what's going on with that lure. It's that predictability that it's what's going to happen. Now, when we hear something that occurs out of context in a song, it creates excitement. It might be negative excitement. It might be something we don't like. Maybe there's a note wrong or a beat that's misplaced or a string breaks or something, if you're listening to a live performance. And so it might be something we don't like, but it also could be something that we really like a little dissonance in the melody that we haven't heard before. Or maybe an instrument takes on a new sound and it's appealing to us, which is part of the whole jam band attraction. At least to me, it is, and it's that difference that creates excitement. Same way with the fishing cast. So we're retrieving that lure. We've got these frequencies coming back to us, and we've got this unbroken chain between our brain, down our arms, to our rod. And I've got one finger on the blank of the rod because I really want to be tuned in, and I'm following in my mind that line as it goes up my rod tip and then down into the water to my lure. Now, my regular fishing partners, Rich and Jamie, and I wish I was fishing with them right now because they're probably both out on big, giant rockfish right now. It's that time of year on the Chesapeake. But they can outfish me in pretty much any situation, and usually do, and I'm used to it, and I'm just part of it, except for one. And that situation is when when the fish are holding really close to the bottom. When they're right on the bottom and you have to get that lure down there, so that it's right on top of the fish, I can usually outfish them, and I think that's just because years of practicing that think down the line sensitivity. So when something happens if you're hearing birds, I've got a pair of Carolina wrens. They're nesting in my shop. They come back every year, and this is their third year. And they don't hurt anything, so I let them live in here in the wintertime. But this is, they're not happy with me being out here in the shop tonight, especially it gets a little smoky out here sometimes. So I'm burning candles or whatever. They don't like that too much. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, just like I always do. But back to the music. So that collection of amplitudes and frequencies that we're hearing in that song, and then that excitement that occurs, I think that's interesting. And I've been studying this mentality, this jam band mentality, especially of what makes somebody sell their house and buy a van and follow the Grateful Dead around the country, or whatever band it happens to be. And a lot of people do that. And I think that there's an addictiveness to that repetitiveness. You just like it. The same with fishing. Some of us fish because we have to fish. Now, there's a lot of people that just fish for recreation, think, oh, I'll just go out and go fishing. But for a lot of us, and probably you if you're watching this podcast, because this is pretty much a fishing podcast, and we're hardcore fishermen, you have to fish. I have to fish. I don't have a choice. I have to do it. There are chemicals in my brain that make me want to go fishing, and that's the same thing with music as well. Because I work at a major Washington D.C. university, and I get to work in some electro-neurodiagnostic research and also neurological research, and one of the things that I'm really interested in is how our brains process sound and light and whatever we process and what chemicals release. Well, when we listen to good music, there's a soothing feeling that comes over us, and that's a result of something called oxytocin in our brain, or dopamines that are released in our brain. And same thing happens when we're fishing. We still get those exact same chemicals when we're fishing, and there's an addictive quality to that. That's why we have to fish. That's why we sell our house and buy a van and follow leftover salmon around the country. We're addicted to that buzz, that dopamine buzz, that oxytocin buzz. It's happiness chemicals that occur in our brain. And so, I was talking about the differences that make it so interesting. Back to the cast. You're anticipating those frequencies, and then something happens that changes. Maybe your lure hits a rock. Maybe it hits a stump. Maybe it hits a 50-inch rockfish. Back just before the release party for my first book, Chesapeake Light Tackle, John Page Williams, who was a senior naturalist for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation at the time, came over. And I absolutely count John Page as one of my mentors in fishing the Chesapeake Bay and learning about its environs and all the critters that live here and plants and everything else about the bay. I don't know anyone who's any smarter about that. And so we... He brought me a nice bottle of scotch, and we worked ourselves about 2/3 of the way through it. And we were having this conversation. And the question came up, and I think it was John Page that asked it, and he says, can you feel a big fish bite before it touches the lure? What do you think? I think you can. And the reason I think you can is because a big fish has to move water before it hits the lure, before it comes in contact with the lure. A big rockfish, whoosh, and it exactly. If you've ever felt a big rockfish strike, it's a big rockfish because it has to suck that water in, and that creates turbulence, and you feel the turbulence in your lure before you actually feel the strike, before the fish actually hits the lure. And if you're paying attention, you set the hook, and maybe you get a good hook set, and maybe you catch the fish. So I kind of like this idea of thinking about every cast as a song, because it kind of works out. And, it's cold here in the Chesapeake Bay. We got the holidays coming up. It's been windy. It's been hard to get out there and fish. But when we can get out there, there's some nice fish. And this is a great time of year to fish the deep water for bass, or even some shallow water. So I hope you get out and do some fishing. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off here from this YouTube series. But I've got a couple more videos coming out on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I don't want you to miss anything. And also it lets YouTube know that you're paying attention. I get a little bit higher rankings on my videos, so more people can see them. And that's what it's all about. So your likes and shares are absolutely appreciated as well. Thank you for that. And don't forget, if you got questions, send them my way about any kind of fishing whatsoever. We'll talk about anything or suggestions for future episodes. Let me know. I hope you enjoy the holiday season. Peace and love to everybody out there, and I'll see you next time.